I always hated rearview mirrors. Even before that night, there's something about them that feels wrong. Like they don't just reflect what's behind you. They show what wants to be behind you. I used to catch myself staring into mine too long, waiting to see something that wasn't there. A face, a shadow, a movement that didn't belong. Most of the time it was just nerves. But one night it wasn't. It was late November, cold enough that frost glittered on the asphalt. I was driving home from work, a 90-minute trip across back highways and rural routes. The kind of roads where you could drive 20 minutes without seeing another car. It was around 1 a.m. when it started. The first time I noticed it, I thought it was a trick of my eyes. Something flickering in the mirror. At first it looked like movement in the back seat, just a shifting shadow. I glanced over my shoulder, nothing there. When I looked back into the mirror, it was gone. But then it came again. Not a shadow this time. A shape. Faint. Like someone sitting in the middle of the back seat, half hidden in darkness. My chest tightened. I forced myself to look directly again. Nothing, just the empty seat. My heart thudded against my ribs. I told myself it was exhaustion. Hours of staring at dark roads and glowing lines made your brain do weird things. I kept driving, but the shape kept coming back. Every few minutes I'd glance at the mirror and there it was. A figure sitting, waiting. I tried adjusting the mirror. Tried not to look. But eventually, curiosity won. I stared into the glass for longer than I should have. And then the figure leaned forward. My stomach dropped. It was clearer now. A head, shoulders, the outline of a person crouched behind me. Their face obscured in shadow. I whipped around. Empty. When I turned back to the road, my car drifted toward the shoulder. Gravel crunched under my tires. I yanked the wheel, heart hammering, pulling myself back onto the lane. When I glanced into the mirror again, the figure was closer, not in the middle anymore. Directly behind my seat, I gripped the wheel so hard my knuckles ached. I didn't want to look anymore, but the mirror demanded it. Every second my eyes were pulled back, and every time the figure inched closer, I could almost feel it now, breathing on my neck, watching me. Then something cold brushed the back of my head. I screamed, swerving, the car jerking across the yellow lines. My vision blurred with tears. I tried to focus, tried to breathe, but the mirror burned at me. I forced myself not to look. I kept my eyes locked on the road, white-knuckled, whispering to myself that it wasn't real. But then the mirror moved. Not the glass. Not the frame. The reflection. I saw myself driving. My pale, terrified face, my shaking hands. But in the reflection, the figure wasn't behind me anymore. It was beside me, in the passenger seat. And it wasn't a blur now. It had a face, gray skin, sunken eyes, a grin stretched too wide, splitting its face. It looked at me in the mirror, not in reality. In the corner of my eye, the seat was empty. But in the mirror, it leaned closer, its lips brushing the shell of my ear. I froze, couldn't move, couldn't breathe. Then it whispered, "Don't look away." My stomach lurched. My vision swam. I wanted to smash the mirror, to rip it from the windshield, but I couldn't. My eyes were trapped. The thing's reflection pressed closer until its face filled the glass. Its grin stretched impossibly wide, and slowly, my reflection began to change. My eyes sank. My skin grayed. My smile widened to match its own. I screamed, slamming my fist into the mirror. The glass cracked, the reflection shattered. I pulled the car to the side of the road, chest heaving, lungs burning. The mirror hung in splinters. The thing was gone, but when I looked at my reflection in the windshield, I realized the cracks hadn't just broken the mirror, they'd broken me, because in the glass, my face was still grinning, even though I wasn't. And from the back seat, something laughed. I used to think the worst thing about driving at night was the silence. That heavy, suffocating silence of endless highways where your headlights carve tunnels through blackness, and the world outside the beam simply doesn't exist. But I was wrong. Silence isn't the worst thing. The worst thing is when the silence isn't empty at all. It happened 3 years ago on a night I should have stayed home. I'd been visiting my brother out of town, left late, and decided to take the long, rural back road to shave an hour off my trip. I'd driven that route plenty of times in the daytime. But at night, it was a different world entirely. No streetlights, no houses, just endless road cutting through farmland and forests, swallowed in shadow. I'd been driving for about 40 minutes when I saw him. A man, standing on the shoulder. At first, I thought he was a trick of the headlights. A scarecrow, maybe, or one of those reflective signposts. But then he turned his head. I should have kept driving. I know that. But something about the way he stood there made my hands twitch toward the brake. He wasn't waving. He wasn't even hitching his thumb. He was just staring, his face pale, eyes dark pits. I slowed. My window slid down halfway. "You all right, man?" My voice felt too loud in the night air. The man didn't answer right away. He just smiled. And something in that smile crawled under my skin, too wide, too stiff, like he'd practiced it in a mirror but never got it right. Finally, he spoke. "Where you headed?" His voice was calm, too calm, like he already knew the answer. "Couple towns over," I said. "Need a ride?" He nodded once, just once, and then he opened the door and slid into the passenger seat. The smell hit me immediately. Damp earth, old leather, and something else, something metallic like rust or blood. I swallowed hard, forcing a polite smile. He didn't speak. He didn't move. He just sat there, hands folded in his lap, staring straight ahead with that crooked smile fixed on his face. The silence pressed in. My car felt smaller with him inside, tighter. I tried to break it, so, "Where you from?" "Nothing. You got family around here?" Still nothing. Just the smile. My grip on the wheel tightened. My skin prickled with sweat. We drove in silence for miles. Every time I glanced at him, he was still smiling, never blinking, never shifting. Then, slowly, he turned his head. And he looked at me. That smile widened, stretching impossibly far, splitting the corners of his mouth. His teeth were small and gray, too many of them. My stomach twisted. "What the hell?" He leaned closer. His lips barely moved, but I heard him. Clear as a whisper in my ear. "You shouldn't have stopped." My blood turned to ice. I slammed my foot on the brake, tires screaming against the pavement. The car lurched to a stop, throwing us both forward. I threw the door open, scrambling out into the cold night air. But when I looked back inside, the passenger seat was empty. My chest heaved. I spun in circles, scanning the dark fields around me. Nothing, no sound, no movement. I climbed back in, locked the doors, hands shaking on the wheel. My headlights cut through the darkness, empty road stretching ahead. I told myself I'd imagined it. Stress, fatigue, a hallucination. I started driving again, but then I saw it. In the rearview mirror, he was sitting in the back seat, smiling. I didn't remember screaming, but my throat burned raw. I swerved, nearly hitting the ditch, tears blurring my vision. The smile grew wider in the mirror, stretching, splitting until it wasn't a face anymore, just a maw. And then he spoke again. "Don't worry. I'll drive next." The last thing I remember is the steering wheel jerking from my hands, my car spinning, headlights twisting into a blur of night. When I woke, I was upside down, car totaled, blood in my mouth. But the passenger seat was still empty. The cops said I'd fallen asleep at the wheel, that no one else had been in the car. But they were wrong, because sometimes when I drive at night, I see him again, not on the side of the road. Not in the backseat, in the mirror, always smiling. Some roads were never meant to be driven. I know that now. But 3 years ago, I didn't. 3 years ago, I thought every road led somewhere. That every stretch of asphalt was just a line between point A and point B. But sometimes a road is a trap, a snare waiting for tired drivers and wandering souls. It started on a night in late December. Freezing air, black ice clinging to the pavement. I was coming back from my cousin's place 2 towns over, taking the highway until I saw flashing hazard lights up ahead. An accident. Cars backed up for miles. I didn't want to wait, so I turned off. Onto a side road I'd never seen before. It wasn't on my GPS, just a narrow strip of cracked asphalt curving into the woods. No street signs, no houses, no lights, but it promised a detour and I was impatient. At first it felt normal enough. A winding back road, trees closing in, headlights painting the branches in skeletal white. My music cut in and out, radio static filling the car. My phone had no signal. I told myself it was fine, just rural dead zones. But after 20 minutes, I noticed something strange. The mile markers. They weren't moving. I'd passed the same one 3 times. Mile 6, same dented pole, same rust stain, same bullet hole through the middle. My gut tightened. Maybe I'd gotten turned around. Maybe the road had looped without me noticing. I slowed, scanning the trees for an intersecting road. Nothing. Just endless forest pressing against the pavement. Another 10 minutes. Another mile 6, my chest grew tight. My hands clammy on the wheel. I tried turning around. I spun the car in a shaky 3-point turn and drove back the way I'd come. But after a while I saw it again. Mile 6. That's when the fear really hit. I pulled over. My headlights washed over bare trees, bark peeling like skin. The silence outside was crushing, deeper than anything I'd ever heard. I killed the engine, stepped out into the cold, breath fogging in the air. That's when I noticed something worse. The road behind me was gone, not covered in fog, not hidden in shadow. Gone. Just blackness stretching where the pavement should have been, like the world had been swallowed whole. I stumbled back into my car, heart racing. Started the engine, kept driving, but it never changed. Mile after mile, the road stretched forward, and every time I passed a marker, it said the same thing. Mile 6. Time stopped making sense. My dashboard clock froze at 2:13 a.m. My gas gauge never dropped. My eyes burned from staring at the endless asphalt, praying for an exit, a driveway, anything. Then I saw the man. He stood on the side of the road, lit by my headlights. Thin, tall, dressed in black. His face pale as bone. I slowed, rolling the window down an inch. "Hey, you all right?" He smiled, not warm, not kind, just a stretched, knowing curve of his lips. "You can't leave," he said. My stomach dropped. "What?" He tilted his head. "The road doesn't end," I floored it. Tires screeched. The man vanished into the trees as my headlights swung past. My pulse hammered in my throat. I drove faster, desperate, terrified, but no matter how far I went, the signs didn't change. Mile 6. Then I noticed the figures. At first, just shadows in the tree line, shapes moving with me, keeping pace with my car. But the longer I drove, the closer they got. Pale faces flashing between trunks, wide eyes glinting in the dark. Whispers bled into the car. Low, hissing. My name tangled in the static. I slammed the radio off, but the whispers stayed. And then I realized they weren't outside anymore. They were in the back seat. I didn't look. I couldn't. I kept my eyes locked on the road, knuckles white around the wheel. But I felt them. Cold breath brushing my neck. Fingers grazing the back of my headrest. The mirror trembled in the corner of my vision. Every part of me screamed not to look, but I did, and they were there. Dozens of faces crammed into the back seat, eyes wide, mouths open in silent screams. Skin gray, teeth sharp, all pressed together like they were trying to crawl forward to pull me into their world. I wrenched the mirror down, heart slamming against my ribs. Tears burned my eyes. I kept driving, minutes, hours, days, I don't know. Time didn't exist anymore, just me, the road. And mile 6, eventually my body gave out. My head dropped. My vision swam. And in that half second before I blacked out, I saw something ahead. Headlights, a car coming straight at me, and then impact. I woke in my bed, or at least it looked like my bed. Same sheets, same posters on the wall, my alarm clock blinking 2:13 a.m. For a moment, I thought it had all been a dream, a nightmare. I staggered to the bathroom, splashed water on my face, tried to calm my racing heart, but then I saw it. In the corner of the mirror, a mile marker, mile 6, and behind me, pale faces pressed against the glass, smiling.